Are you self-employed and you finally want to invest your savings while lowering your taxes? Maybe you've had a successful year as a realtor or interior designer or a TikTok influencer. In this video, we'll do a side-by-side comparison of the two most popular ways you can create your own retirement plan as a self-employed or small business owner, solo 401k versus SEP IRA, and we'll do 5 rounds. Round number 1 on solo 401k versus SEP IRA, who can participate? So let's say you're a TikTok influencer, you just hit 1 million subscribers and you're now raking the money with ads and sponsorships and you want to invest that money wisely, right? So good news, you can contribute as a self-employed person either through a solo 401k or a SEP IRA. You can do both, but there is one important difference. If you create a solo 401k, you can contribute both as the employer and employee. With a SEP IRA, you can only contribute as the employer. Now you're probably like, why do I care? Well, you probably won't care if you're both the employee and the employer, just solo shop. But if you have a W-2, let's say you hired a virtual assistant to help you out and you're paying him or her a W-2 salary, then you cannot contribute through a solo 401k. That's why they call it solo 401k, because you need to be flying solo. Now, you can contribute as a SEP IRA if you have a W-2 employee, but take note, if you, let's say, put in 10% of your income to your SEP IRA, you also need to be contributing 10% of your W-2 employee's income to his or her SEP IRA. So given that, there's both pros and cons for solo 401k and SEP IRA here, so we'll probably make it a tie for round number 1. Bonus question for this round. If you're an interior designer and you have an S corporation, can you set up a solo 401k? The answer is yes. If you're a sole proprietor or if you run an S corp or an LLC, you can contribute to solo 401k as long as you do not have a W-2 employee. Round number 2 on solo 401k versus SEP IRA, what are the contribution limits? For both solo 401k and SEP IRA, you can contribute up to 25% of your compensation, up to a maximum of $57,000 for 2020 and $58,000 for tax year 2021. This is specifically for employer contributions. Now, think about that for a second. Most of your friends or neighbors are probably regular employees with access to a 401k. They can only contribute, at least for 2020, $19,500. You as a self-employed and a small business owner can put in as much as $57,000 for 2020. So this is really where you can take advantage of being a self-employed person. Now, based on my experience, that 25% of compensation after a bunch of deductions and adjustments, that really comes down to just above over 18% of your compensation. So make sure you consult your tax accountant into exactly how much you can contribute. Now, with a solo 401k, in addition to that contribution that you can make as the employer, you can also make another round of contributions as an employee. As an employee, you can contribute up to $19,500 for 2020 and 2021. So let's say you are a realtor in the Washington, D.C. area, and for 2020, you made $200,000 in income with the help of the crazy real estate market that we're currently in. And so let's say you decide to contribute 18% of your compensation as the employer towards your solo 401k. So that is $36,000, right? And you can do that either through a solo 401k and SEP IRA. But through a solo 401k, you can contribute an additional $19,500 as the employee for a total of $55,500. So for round 2, solo 401k easily wins because of this. Now, if you're finding this video valuable, please do click on the like button below. Round number 3 on solo 401k versus SEP IRA, when is the contribution deadline? For tax year 2020, it is May 17, 2021. That's both for the solo 401k contribution deadline and the SEP IRA contribution deadline. Now, this is specifically for employer contributions. If you're doing a solo 401k and you're just creating the plan now, then you cannot contribute as an employee for 2020, unfortunately. You can do that for 2021, but not for 2020. Now, regardless, the takeaway here is you still have time to do this until the tax deadline. So do your future self a favor and maybe you can pause uploading TikTok videos for a day or two and do this contribution for either solo 401k or SEP IRA. For this round, I would say it's a tie between the solo 401k and the SEP IRA because they more or less have the same contribution deadline. If you do have questions at this point, feel free to type them in the comment section below. And now I have a quick question for you. Do you prefer to pay higher taxes or lower taxes? Round number 4 on solo 401k versus SEP IRA. Which is better for your taxes? Now let's say you're an interior designer and you've had an excellent year. A lot of people are spending on home improvement stuff and you decide to contribute to a SEP IRA. The advantage of that is you get to deduct that from your tax return, so you pay lower taxes for this year. But once you withdraw that money from your SEP IRA when you're retired, then you have to pay federal and maybe state income taxes when you do so. Now with the solo 401k, you have the option to contribute pre-tax, meaning you get to deduct those contributions from your tax return this year, or you can contribute post-tax through the solo Roth 401k option. If you do the latter, then you pay taxes now, but you let your investments grow tax-free. When you take it out during retirement, you don't pay a single dime in taxes. Now for this round, I'd say solo 401k wins pretty easily. Round number 5, last round on solo 401k versus SEP IRA. How easy is it to set it up and maintain? Well, they're both easy to set up. With a solo 401k, when you open one through a financial institution or brokerage firm, they will provide for you usually the solo 401k plan document, which you just review, click on a couple options, sign, pretty easy. Now there are several solo 401k vendors or solo 401k providers that you can choose from. If you're a fan of Vanguard, there is a Vanguard solo 401k. Fidelity solo 401k, there's one. If you're a fan of E-Trade, there's an E-Trade solo 401k. Now for those of you who are Vanguard fans, one drawback here is Vanguard currently does not allow you to move an existing IRA of yours into your solo 401k. So I've been actually calling Vanguard for the past 2 years because we have a client that has a Vanguard solo 401k account and he wanted to move his IRA into his Vanguard solo 401k for various reasons. And they said, we're considering it, it's gonna come, but it never came for 2 years, and we decided to just create another solo 401k plan with E-Trade. So just make a note of that. For Fidelity solo 401ks, one major drawback for the Fidelity solo 401k is they do not have a solo Roth 401k option, which is pretty sad. If you're setting up a SEP IRA, it's pretty straightforward. You can easily see the SEP IRA option there under retirement. One thing that a lot of people forget is in addition to creating the actual SEP IRA account, you also need to fill up a form that's called Form 5305-SEP. 5305-SEP, you can Google that. Don't be intimidated, it's only half a page long and you don't need to file it with the IRS. You just sign and date it, complete it, and just file it away in case you're audited. So how easy is it to maintain a SEP IRA and a solo 401k? Well, they're both pretty easy, but for a solo 401k, once the plan's assets reach $250,000, then you are now required by law to file a Form 5500 each year in order to comply with the IRS rules. So for this round, I'm gonna give it to SEP IRA because it entails less paperwork. So who wins our solo 401k versus SEP IRA match? Well, I'm counting 2 ties, and Solo 401k got 2 points and 1 point for SEP IRA. Solo 401k wins. Now, which one is actually best for you? It really depends on your situation. You would want to consult a financial planner. If you can contribute a lot of money, most likely you can do so through a Solo 401k. If you prefer something that is easier to administer, less paperwork, you may want to consider a SEP IRA. Now that you have a retirement plan for your small business, don't forget that you can still contribute to either a traditional IRA or Roth IRA in addition to the Solo 401k or SEP IRA that you just set up. If you want to grow your money tax-free but you can no longer contribute money into a Roth IRA, check out our video on how to do a backdoor Roth IRA, 3 simple steps.